Yesican, and the Ministering Angels. Chapter 1. The Unseen Weight. Yes, I See, The Ministering Angel, adult faith novel, by Minister Joyce Toney. The clock on the nightstand blinked 2:43 a.m. in dull red digits that pulsed against the darkness like a heartbeat she could no longer match. Yes, I See can lay staring at the ceiling, her body heavy with exhaustion but her mind unwilling to rest. The sheets beneath her felt rough, twisted, and damp with sweat. She had been awake for nearly 3 nights in a row, drifting in and out of a half-sleep that brought no rest, only more thoughts that circled back to the same emptiness. The apartment was silent, but not peaceful. The kind of silence that presses against the chest, whispering things too dark to say aloud. Her hand slid over the pillow beside her, still cold. She had long stopped expecting anyone to fill that space. Family lived far away. Her friends had their own lives. The phone stayed quiet except for doctor reminders and insurance emails she dreaded opening. She pressed the heel of her palm against her forehead. "Why am I so tired all the time?" she murmured into the air. No one answered, or so it seemed. The voice of lying lips. From the shadow at the foot of her bed, something unseen leaned forward. Its voice was gentle, almost kind, but the words carried venom. "Lying lips? Because you're weak. You've always been weak. Look at you, a mess over nothing. You pray, but God doesn't listen. Why would he? You're just one of millions crying out into the dark." Yesican pressed her hands over her ears as if the sound were physical. "Stop it," she whispered. But her thoughts didn't stop. They spun faster, crueler. "Lying lips. You used to be strong. You used to smile. You used to believe all that faith talk. Now look at you, falling apart, forgotten. Even heaven's tired of your complaining." A tear slipped from the corner of her eye and soaked into her pillow. She wanted to pray, but her words felt trapped under the same heaviness pressing on her chest. The weight of brokenness. Then another presence, quieter, heavier, settled over her like invisible fog. It didn't speak with words but emotion. She felt brokenness in her limbs, the ache that lingered after long days at work, the dull pain that made her sit in the shower longer than she meant to, staring at the tile while water scalded her shoulders. Brokenness did not mock her. It simply held her down, whispering with silence, "Stay here. Don't try. It's easier to give up." She turned her face toward the wall. The apartment's outline blurred in the half-light. The bookshelf, the plant she had forgotten to water, the unopened Bible on the nightstand. She reached for it, hesitating. Her fingers brushed its worn leather cover, the one her mother had given her before she moved away. She remembered her mother's favorite verse. "Many hardships and perplexing circumstances confront the righteous, but the Lord rescues him from them all." Psalm 34:19. A.M.E. The memory brought both comfort and anger. "Then where are you now, Lord? Then where are you now?" she whispered hoarsely. Her voice broke. She buried her face in her hands and sobbed quietly. Sleepless morning. By 4 a.m., she had stopped crying. Her tears had dried into salt tracks on her skin. She sat upright now, wrapped in her blanket like armor, staring at the faint glow creeping through the blinds. The city outside was still half asleep. A passing car, the distant hum of air vents, the occasional drip from the kitchen faucet. Inside her, lying lips began again. "Lying lips. You should just quit your job. You're barely holding it together. No one would notice if you disappeared for a while." She swallowed hard, clutching her blanket tighter. "That's not true. Lying lips, isn't it? When was the last time someone called to ask how you were? You give everything and get nothing back." She stood abruptly, heart racing, the blanket falling to the floor. "I said, stop." Her voice echoed off the walls, bouncing back at her emptiness. A faint light, the outburst startled even her. She leaned against the dresser, trembling. For a brief second, she thought she saw something, a faint glimmer near the window. It wasn't sunlight, dawn was still far off. It was softer, like candlelight seen through mist. But it vanished as quickly as it appeared. Her breathing slowed. A strange peace settled over her chest, lasting only a moment, but long enough to notice the absence of Lying Lips' voice. She whispered into the silence, "God, I'm so tired." No answer. Still, the quiet no longer felt so heavy. She crawled back into bed, pulling the blanket up to her chin. Her body still ached, her eyes still burned, but for the first time in days, her heart loosened just enough for sleep to come. Closing scene. Outside, dawn finally broke. Light spilled through the blinds, chasing the last shadow from her room. On the nightstand, the Bible lay open where her hand had brushed it. The page read, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted, and saves those who are crushed in spirit." Psalm 34:18, AME. The room was still, but in that stillness, heaven had already drawn near. This is the last word of my life. All of this sounds, wage word and time, all of me. Chapter 1, The Unseen Weight. The night pressed in like an unwelcome visitor who refused to leave. Yes, I can lay still, eyes open, watching the ceiling absorb the pale glow of the streetlight that slipped through half-closed blinds. Her body was tired, so tired, but sleep had abandoned her again. It was nearly 3 in the morning. The clock's red digits glared back at her from a nightstand, a silent accuser reminding her of every restless hour that had passed. She turned over, trying to escape the thoughts that pulsed in her mind like a second heartbeat. But the exhaustion wasn't just physical anymore. It had become part of her. It was the kind of fatigue that sank deep, not from lack of rest, but from carrying something unseen. Her apartment was quiet except for the faint hum of the refrigerator down the hall. The quiet should have been peaceful, but it wasn't. It was the kind of silence that listens back. She shifted beneath the blanket and whispered, "Why am I so tired all the time?" Her voice startled her. It sounded foreign, fragile, cracked at the edges. A light rain had begun outside, tapping gently against the window pane. The sound filled the space for a moment, softening the loneliness. But even the rhythm of the rain couldn't soothe the unease gnawing at her soul. The voice in the shadows, from somewhere beyond the room or perhaps from the corner of her own mind, came a whisper. It was low, smooth, and cruelly calm. "Lying Lips. Because you're failing." She froze. Her eyes darted toward the doorway, then the window. The apartment was empty, but the voice lingered, sliding across the silence like oil. "Lying Lips. You're running out of strength. You're running out of time." "Yes, I can's" breath caught in her throat. She pressed a hand to her chest, feeling her heart race. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "No, I'm just tired." "Lying Lips. Tired because you're weak. Weak because you've prayed, and he didn't answer. Admit it, he's forgotten you." Her eyes burned. She shut them tightly, whispering, "That's not true." But the voice didn't stop. It wound itself through her thoughts, coiling tighter with every denial. "Lying Lips. You've been faithful, haven't you? You've given, served, waited. And what did it get you? Nothing. You're alone. Forgotten." Tears welled and spilled quietly down her face. "I'm not," she said softly, but her conviction sounded thin, a thread ready to snap. The arrival of brokenness. Something else entered the room then, not seen, not heard, but felt. It was the heaviness, the invisible gravity that made it hard to breathe, hard to move, hard to care. Brokenness. It didn't need words, its power was in silence. It pressed down on her chest until she felt her ribs ache. Her arms felt too heavy to lift. Even thinking of prayer seemed impossible. She curled onto her side and whispered, "God, help me." But even as she said it, the plea felt hollow. The air seemed to thicken. She thought she could almost see it, a faint shadow curling at the edge of the room, darker than a night itself. Brokenness didn't accuse her like Lying Lips did. It simply held her there, whispering through her fatigue, "Stay down. Stop fighting. It's easier this way. She swallowed hard, blinking against new tears. Her gaze fell on the Bible sitting on the nightstand. Its leather cover had begun to crack from disuse. Her mother's handwriting was still visible on the inside flap. 10. To my beautiful daughter, remember, God rescues those who trust him. The words glowed faintly under the streetlight, a small reminder of a faith that felt too far away tonight. She reached out a trembling hand and touched the cover, whispering, "Where are you now, Lord?" No answer. Only the whisper of rain, the weight of silence. Time passed unnoticed. When she looked at the clock again, it was nearly 4. Her body trembled from exhaustion. Every muscle felt tender, her mind hollow. She sat up slowly, pulling the blanket around her shoulders, her movements sluggish as if she were underwater. The world outside her window was still and gray, the sea asleep. A few cars hissed by on wet pavement, their headlights painting brief stripes across the wall before vanishing. She tried to pray again, but the words wouldn't come. It had been weeks since she'd felt anything when she prayed. The phrases she repeated, "Lord, I need you," "Lord, help me," had started to feel like static, bouncing off heaven and falling back unheard. Her eyes drifted to the wall where a small framed verse hung. A gift from a friend long ago. Many hardships and perplexing circumstances confront the righteous, but the Lord rescues him from them all. Psalm 34, letters 19a, mm. She stared at it until the letters blurred. Then, "Rescue me," she whispered. Her voice cracked on the last word. The fracture. Suddenly, something within her snapped. Not loudly, but in that quiet way hearts do when they can't bear one more disappointment. She stood up abruptly, her blanket slipping to the floor. Her reflection stared back at her from the dark window, eyes swollen, hair tangled, a stranger wearing her face. "This isn't who I'm supposed to be," she said softly. "I used to believe." Her voice trembled. "I used to have peace." The rain outside intensified, streaking down the glass in long silver trails. Lying lips returned, seizing the moment. "Peace? That's for people God still loves." "No." "You prayed. He didn't answer. You waited. He didn't come. That's not love. That's indifference." She slammed her palms against the window pane. "Stop lying to me." The sound startled even her. The apartment echoed with her cry. Then, silence. Heavy, absolute silence. She turned away from the window, panting, trembling. For a fleeting moment, she thought she saw a flicker of movement near the corner of the room, not shadow, but light. Faint, gold. She blinked, but it vanished. Her heart slowed. The silence no longer felt empty. It felt watched. She wrapped the blanket back around her and sat on the edge of the bed, breathing deeply. "I'm so tired, God," she whispered. "I just need you to do something." 12. No voice answered. But the air felt different, lighter somehow, as though a presence had entered quietly and sat beside her. The first rest. When she finally lay back down, the weight didn't lift completely, but it loosened, just enough for her body to relax into the mattress. Her eyelids grew heavy. The hum of the refrigerator became a lullaby. The whisper of lying lips faded to nothing. The rain softened. On her nightstand, the Bible fell open where her hand had brushed it. Her weary eyes caught one verse before sleep finally took her. "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." Psalm 34:18, AMP. She exhaled slowly, almost smiling. "Then maybe you're closer than I think." And for the first time in many nights, she slept. The morning came without promise. Yesican woke to the gray light of dawn filtering through the blinds. Not sunlight, but a dim, hesitant glow that filled the room with a weary pallor. Her body ached in places she hadn't known could ache. Even her eyes hurt from crying. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. The dreams, or maybe they were prayers, had been strange and heavy, filled with drifting lights and whispers she couldn't recall clearly. She had slept, yes, but the rest hadn't reached her bones. The rain had stopped, leaving behind a silence so deep she could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator again, steady and relentless, like time itself, refusing to pause for grief. 13. Her mind reached for the day before the sleepless night, the whispering voices, the moment of exhaustion when she'd finally collapsed. A sigh escaped her lips, long and low. Another day, she whispered to the still air. It wasn't gratitude. It was resignation. The weight that woke with her. When she sat up, the heaviness came too, as if it had slept beside her, waiting for her eyes to open. It wasn't panic or sadness anymore. It was the slow ache of emptiness, the numbness that follows too many unanswered prayers. She swung her legs over the side of the bed. Her feet touched the cold floor, grounding her in the physical world, but her spirit felt miles away. Her Bible lay open where she had left it. The verse still glowed faintly in her memory. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted. She brushed her fingers across the page. If you're near, she murmured, I can't feel you. The words left her lips like smoke, faint, shapeless, vanishing before they reached heaven. Brokenness stirred beside her, invisible but present, an ache settling in her chest like an old friend who refused to leave. Brokenness. Don't force it. Don't pretend. God helps others, not you. You've always been the one holding everything together, and now there's nothing left to hold. She blinked back, set in tears. Her throat felt tight. I don't want to fall apart. Brokenness, you already are. Her hands trembled as she pressed them together, elbows on her knees. She wanted to pray, but all she could manage was silence. 14. The routine of survival. She stood and moved slowly through the apartment. The floorboards creaked under her bare feet. Everything felt heavier, the air, the walls, her own limbs. The kitchen greeted her with the remnants of last night's unfinished life, a coffee mug by the sink, unopened mail on the counter, and a calendar still turned to last month. She hadn't had the energy to flip the page. The smell of stale coffee hung faintly in the air. She reached for the pot, poured what was left into a mug, and took a cautious sip. It was cold and bitter, but she drank it anyway. In the corner of the living room sat her favorite chair, a soft, faded recliner where she used to read devotionals in the morning. The throw blanket she had crocheted years ago still draped across it, though it had gathered dust. She sank into the chair and pulled the blanket around her shoulders, clutching it tightly. For a long time, she just stared at the wall. The clock ticked quietly. Somewhere outside, a bird chirped. The sound was too cheerful, almost offensive in its brightness. Lying lips. See? Even the world moves on without you. She clenched her jaw. You're not real, she said under her breath. You're just me talking to myself. Lying lips. You wish that were true. The voice drifted away, replaced again by silence. But silence, she was learning, was never empty. The phone call. Her cell phone vibrated on the coffee table, startling her. The sound seemed too loud, too intrusive. She reached for it and saw the name flash across the screen. Dr. Meyer's office. Her heart skipped a beat. She hesitated before answering, her voice barely above a whisper. Hello? A woman's voice came through, polite but impersonal. Good morning, Miss Canfield. This is Grace from Dr. Meyer's office. I'm calling to confirm your appointment for tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., for your follow-up and test results. Yes, Can's fingers tightened around the phone. Test results? Yes, ma'am. Dr. Myers asked that you bring a family member or friend if possible. She forced a small laugh, though it came out hollow. There won't be anyone. It'll just be me. That's fine, ma'am, the voice replied with polite indifference. We'll see you then. The line clicked dead. She lowered the phone slowly, staring at it as if it might offer comfort after the call ended. But it was just another screen, another piece of technology delivering news no one wanted. Her stomach twisted. For days, she tried not to think about what those tests might reveal. Fatigue, weight loss, sleeplessness. She had blamed it all on stress. She hadn't allowed her mind to go further. But now the word results echoed inside her like a warning bell. She stood abruptly, pacing the small living room. "No," she muttered, shaking her head. "No, it's probably nothing serious. I'm fine." Her voice didn't sound convincing, not even to herself. The mirror. She walked into the bathroom, flicking on the harsh fluorescent light. Her reflection stared back at her, the same tired eyes, the same drawn face, the same faint sadness etched into the corners of her mouth. She gripped the sink. "You're fine," she whispered again, staring into her own eyes as if she could speak belief into them. "You've always handled everything. You'll handle this too." But even as she said it, her voice trembled. The mirror seemed to darken, the corners of the room closing in. Lying lips. "You don't believe that. You never did." "Stop." 16. No one's coming. Not your family, not your friends, not even God. This time, you're truly alone. Her breathing grew shallow. Brokenness. "Don't fight it. Yes, I can. Let go. It's easier if you stop pretending." She pressed her palms to the cold porcelain. "I'm not pretending," she whispered through tears. "I'm trying." Lying lips. Praying doesn't matter. Faith doesn't fix reality. Her hands shook. She turned off the light and stumbled out of the bathroom, leaning against the hallway wall until the wave of dizziness passed. The darkness was better than the light. The faint stirring. She returned to the recliner, clutching her blanket. Her heart still raced, but something softer began to stir beneath the panic. A memory, faint as perfume from long ago. Her mother's voice again, gentle and firm. "When you can't feel him, talk to him anyway." She whispered into the empty room. "Are you still listening, God?" No answer. But the question hung there, alive. She closed her eyes. Slowly, her breathing steadied. In that fragile silence, she didn't hear comfort speak, not yet, but the atmosphere shifted. The air seemed less heavy, the darkness less oppressive. Somewhere deep inside, a pulse of faith stirred, faint, but real, and heaven noticed. The day bled into evening without her realizing it. 17. The gray sky outside her window deepened into a dull slate, then indigo. The air felt thick, too heavy for spring. The smell of rain still lingered, mixed with the faint scent of dust from her closed windows. She hadn't stepped outside all day. Her phone buzzed once, a message from a coworker checking if she'd be in tomorrow. She stared at the screen, watching the words fade from view, then locked it without answering. What could she say? "No, I can't. I might be falling apart." She sat back in her chair, rubbing the ache in her neck. The mug from that morning still sat on the table beside her, a cold ring of coffee clinging to the bottom. She wanted to wash it but couldn't bring herself to move. The clock ticked toward 7. Outside, streetlights flickered on, one by one. The quiet before the storm. "Yes, I can," rose finally and walked to the window. The sky hung low and purple. A few stars blinked weakly between slow-moving clouds. Her own reflection stared back at her, pale, eyes hollow, shoulders slightly hunched. She barely recognized the woman who looked back. "I used to be stronger than this," she murmured. "I used to believe." She thought of the years she taught Sunday school, the way she used to quote Philippians 4:13 to the children. "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." She had meant it then, every word. But now, the verse felt like something that belonged to another lifetime. Lying lips. "You can't even get through a day without crying. What kind of strength is that?" She closed her eyes. "I'm tired." Lying lips. "Tired because you keep fighting a battle you've already lost." "I haven't lost." Lying lips. "Then why does it feel like defeat?" Her jaw tightened. "Because I'm human." A soft laugh echoed through her mind's sharp and mocking. Lying lips. "You think humanity excuses failure? You're a believer. You should have faith, shouldn't you? You preach strength you can't live." "Faith doesn't mean never falling," she whispered, though her voice shook. "It means getting back up." The whisper grew colder, darker, slithering around her thoughts. Lying lips. "Then stand up now." Prove it. Pray, if you still remember how. Her throat closed. The tears burned, unspilled. She turned away from the window, pressing a trembling hand against her chest. God, she said softly, I don't even know what to say anymore. The echo of emptiness. The apartment seemed to listen. She moved through the quiet space, one slow step at a time, her bare feet brushing the worn carpet. Every sound, the click of the thermostat, the creak of the old chair, seemed exaggerated in the silence. She walked into the small kitchen and leaned against the counter. Her reflection glimmered faintly in the microwave door, distorted, fragmented by the curved glass. Brokenness. It's all right. The familiar heaviness whispered, tender and suffocating. Don't force yourself. You've done enough. Just stop fighting. Her body sagged against the counter. I just want peace. Brokenness, peace comes when you stop trying to be strong. I don't want to be strong, she said through tears. I just don't want to be afraid. But fear was a living thing, and it had learned her name. 19. Nightfall. The hours passed unnoticed until the clock struck 10. She turned off the lamp and sank onto the couch, curling beneath the old blanket again. The faint hum of the city faded into the background, leaving only the tick of the clock and the rhythmic rise and fall of her shallow breathing. She clutched a pillow to her chest. The air in the apartment had cooled, but sweat still dampened her skin. Anxiety hummed just beneath the surface, constant, pulsing, relentless. God, please, she whispered into the darkness. Please help me. Her voice cracked, lying lips. Help you? He hasn't answered yet. What makes you think you will now? He said he would never leave me. Lying lips. He said that to everyone. You think you're special? Her tears came faster. Why are you doing this to me? Lying lips. Because truth hurts, doesn't it? He's gone silent. Deep down you know what that means. She covered her ears, rocking slightly, whispering, No, no. A voice faded, replaced by a thick silence that filled the room like water rising in a drowning space. The whisper of comfort. Then, barely audible, another sound entered. It wasn't a voice at first, more like the quiet rustle of leaves and wind, though no window was open. Then, a single phrase emerged, as gentle as a sigh. Comfort. Be still. Her breath caught. The air around her shifted, softening. 20. Comfort. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10, AMP. Her heart pounded. Who's there? She whispered. No reply, only that same warmth from before, faint but present, wrapping her like invisible arms. Tears welled in her eyes again, but they felt different this time, not of despair, but of release. She closed her eyes and whispered the verse aloud, her voice trembling. Be still and know that you are God. The words settled into the air like a promise. The tension in her chest began to ease. Her breathing slowed. The edges of her fear softened, as if her soul recognized the voice before her mind did. Comfort. You are weary, but not forsaken. The voice was barely more than a thought, but she felt it like sunlight brushing through clouds. Comfort. Even when the earth shakes beneath you, I am the solid ground. Her lips parted in a soft cry. She pressed a hand over her heart. I don't deserve you. The air seemed to breathe with her. Comfort. Grace isn't earned, child. It's given. She bowed her head, sobbing, but these tears carried something new, the faint pulse of hope. The first glimpse of rest. Hours later, she was still sitting on the couch, but her body had loosened, her mind quiet. The city beyond her window had grown completely still, swallowed by the hush before dawn. She drew in a slow breath. Be still, she whispered again, tasting the words like medicine. For the first time in days, her heart didn't race. She lay back, eyes closing, the blanket pulled to her chin. As she drifted toward sleep, one final thought crossed her mind, a whisper of her mother's voice. 21. When you can't feel God's presence, trust His word until you can. Her last conscious breath formed the prayer too soft for human ears. Stay with me tonight, and in the space between heartbeats, heaven answered without sound. The morning gray. The world outside her window looked washed in silver. as though night had forgotten to end. A fine mist clung to the ground. The air carried that clean scent that comes after rain but before sunrise. Yes, I can, sat on the edge of her bed, fully dressed but unmoving, her hands clasped together in her lap. Her heartbeat felt too loud for the quiet room. She'd slept only in fragments, but the stillness of dawn gave her a kind of fragile courage. She told herself, just it through the morning, one step, 1 hour at a time. The clock read 6:12 a.m. Her appointment was in 3 hours. The Bible still lay open on the nightstand where she had last whispered Psalm 46:10. The verse caught her eye again. Be still and know that I am God. She read it slowly, then turned the page, her fingers trembling. Her eyes landed on another promise, underlined in faded blue ink. Do not fear anything, for I am with you. Do not be afraid, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, be assured I will help you. I will certainly take hold of you with my righteous right hand, a hand of justice, of power, of victory, of salvation. Isaiah 41:10 AMP. The words steadied her breathing. She whispered, Then hold me today, Lord. For a moment, she felt nothing, then a faint warmth, as if someone unseen had brushed her shoulder. The drive. The engine hummed beneath her hands as she pulled out of the driveway. The morning streets were empty, slick from the night's drizzle. 22. She drove slowly, one hand on the wheel, the other gripping the cross that hung from her rearview mirror. Her grandmother had given it to her years ago, saying, Keep it close when you drive, remember who rides with you. Today she needed that reminder more than ever. Her stomach knotted as the hospital signs came into view. Every mile felt heavier. Lying lips. You think that cross will save you from bad news? It's only metal. She tightened her grip. It's what it means that saves me. Lying lips. Pretty words. But faith doesn't change test results. She turned the radio on to drown the voice, but static filled the car. She switched it off again, whispering, Not today. From the quiet rose another sound. Softer, clearer, not a voice in her head but a steady impression across her heart. Comfort. I lift up my eyes to the hills, from where shall my help come? My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. Psalm 112:1-2 AMP. The verse came unbidden. She hadn't read it in months. Her throat tightened. You're really with me, aren't you? The warmth returned, not dramatic, just a calm awareness that someone was present in the passenger seat. She exhaled shakily and whispered, Then stay. But the hospital. Hospitals had a smell she would never get used to, a mix of antiseptic, metal, and something faintly sweet, like paper masks and fading hope. The waiting room was half full, a woman flipping through a magazine, a young man staring at the floor, an elderly couple whispering together. The television on the wall played muted new headlines no one cared to read. Yes, I Can checked in and sat down in the corner seat near the window. She tried to pray, but her thoughts scattered. 23, her phone buzzed. A text from her sister. Sorry I missed your call last night. Crazy week. Let's talk soon. Love you. She typed a reply. No worries, love you too, then deleted it before sending. What would she even say? I might have cancer? No, not yet. Not until she knew. Her name was called. The nurse smiled politely but not warmly, leading her through sterile hallways that smelled of bleach. The sound of shoes squeaking against tile echoed like a metronome for her fear. Each step felt heavier than the last. The exam room. The room was too white. White walls, white paper on the exam table, white light that erased all warmth. She sat down, her hands folded tightly in her lap. The nurse took her blood pressure, scribbled notes, and left her alone with the hum of fluorescent lights. Brokenness. You don't belong here. Healthy people belong outside. You belong to sickness now. Her throat ached. Stop it, she whispered. Brokenness. You knew something was wrong long before today. You ignored the signs. You brought this on yourself. She shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. No. Lying lips. Yes, you've been pretending everything's fine. The fatigue, the pain, the sleepless nights. You thought faith would cover it, but now truth shows its face. The door opened suddenly, startling her. A nurse entered, kind-eyed, holding a clipboard. Miss Canfield? Dr. Myers will see you shortly. Just take a few deep breaths, okay? Yes, Yesican nodded quickly, forcing a faint smile. As the nurse left, Comfort whispered again, gentle but firm. 24. Comfort. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And through the rivers, they will not overwhelm you. Isaiah 43:2, AMP. She closed her eyes, inhaled deeply, and repeated the words aloud, barely more than a breath. You'll be with me. The tension in her shoulders eased slightly. The doctor's approach. She heard footsteps outside. The handle of the door turned. Her pulse quickened. Lying lips. This is where it ends. Brace yourself for this appointment. Comfort. Do not fear, for I am with you. The two voices collided inside her. One sharp as glass, the other soft as oil. She chose silence, gripping the edge of the exam table. The door opened. Dr. Myers stepped in, holding a folder. His expression was professional, unreadable. Good morning, Miss Canfield. She nodded, voice too small to answer. He sat across from her, flipping through papers. The air seemed to thicken with every turn of a page. Your test results came back, he said. There are some irregular cells that we need to discuss in detail. The rest of his words dissolved into a blur of clinical terms, phrases about scans, biopsies, follow-ups. She heard only fragments. Suspicious? Possible malignancy? Schedule for surgery? Her breath caught. Brokenness. You knew it. It's over. 25 lying lips. You prayed for protection, but heaven closed its doors. Her ears rang. She felt herself drifting somewhere far away. Then, faintly, like a drop of light in a cavern, comfort, I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. The doctor's lips were still moving, but the words barely reached her. Instead, she focused on that inner whisper, steady, certain, unshaken. Will uphold you with my righteous right hand. She blinked hard, forcing her attention back to the present. The doctor was sliding a packet of papers across the counter. Schedule the follow-up for tomorrow morning. We'll confirm everything then. Tomorrow. The words sounded final. She stood on legs that felt unfamiliar and followed the nurse back through the corridor. Sighed. When she stepped outside, the sunlight broke through the clouds at last, scattering across the wet pavement. She inhaled deeply, letting the light hit her face. The voices had quieted for now. Only comfort remained, whispering like wind through the leaves. Comfort. I will lift up your head. Your help comes from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. Her lips parted in a trembling whisper. Then I'll keep driving toward you. And she did. The return home 26. By the time Yesican reached home, the late afternoon sky had turned into a wash of smoky blue and faded gold. She parked her car in front of her apartment and sat there for a long time, both hands still gripping the steering wheel. The hospital's words lingered like ghosts in the car. Suspicious cells, possible malignancy, follow-up tomorrow. Each phrase looped in her mind like a broken record. She closed her eyes, trying to breathe, but the air felt thick, heavy like trying to inhale water. Tomorrow, she whispered. Just make it through tomorrow. She finally forced herself out of the car. Her body felt 10 years older. Inside, the apartment greeted her with stillness. The same silence she had hated the night before now felt heavier, as if the walls themselves held their breath. She dropped her purse onto the table and leaned against the counter, her fingers trembling. For a long moment, she just stood there, staring at the sink, at the cup she hadn't washed, the unopened mail, the stale air. And then, as quietly as the wind shifting through unseen trees, the familiar darkness entered again. Brokenness arrives. Brokenness slid into the room, like mist through an open door. Its presence wasn't loud, it didn't need to be. It filled the air with a kind of weight that made the smallest task feel impossible. No one to talk to. You're carrying this alone. Yes, she whispered, her voice cracking. I know. Brokenness. You always have. You've been strong for everyone else your whole life. But strength runs out. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't have much left. Brokenness. Then stop fighting. Let the silence swallow it all. 27. Her body slumped. She felt the gravity of despair pulling her downward. The temptation to give up was almost comforting. She sank to the floor, her back against the wall, her hands limp in her lap. Brokenness. There's peace in surrendering to nothingness, she whispered back. But that's not peace, that's quitting. A faint flicker of light, not literal, but spiritual, glimmered somewhere deep inside her soul. The return of lying lips. And then the sharper voice came. Lying lips. Smooth, articulate, ruthless. Lying lips. You're fooling yourself. Faith can't shield you from the truth. Tomorrow they'll confirm it. Cancer. You'll lose everything, your hair, your health, your independence. You'll be forgotten. She pressed her hands to her ears. Stop it, lying lips. You prayed for years that God would use your life. Maybe this is how he's answering, through your suffering. Her eyes snapped open. Don't twist his word. Lying lips. Oh, but you know the scripture, doesn't it say, count it all joy when you face trials? You should be rejoicing right now, shouldn't you? So where's your joy? Yes, I can. She broke into sobs, shaking her head violently. You're not him. You don't speak for him. Lying lips, no. But I know your doubts. The words cut deeper than she wanted to admit. The war within. The evening stretched into night. She turned on the lamp, dim and golden, the only light in the room. 28. Her Bible lay open on the couch, but she couldn't read it. Her mind was too loud, her thoughts spinning too fast. She wrapped herself in a blanket, curling into the corner of the couch. Her tears slowed, but her spirit still trembled beneath the weight of fear. God, she whispered, I want to trust you, but I'm scared. I don't know how to do this alone. The air around her seemed to still, not the suffocating stillness of despair this time, but a holy kind of pause. A voice, quiet and certain, spoke into that silence. Comfort. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Lord is the defense and protector of my life. Whom shall I dread? Psalm 27:1, AMP. Her breath caught. She recognized the verse instantly. Her mother had once written those very words on a note and tucked it in her Bible during a rough season years ago. Yes, I can, whispered it aloud, her voice trembling. The Lord is my light. Whom shall I fear? The tears came again, but softer now. Comfort. Though a host encamp against you, your heart shall not fear. Psalm 27:3. Her chest ached, but it was a different kind of ache now. Not despair, but awakening. She exhaled shakily. You're really still here. The visitation of peace. Something in the air changed again. The room seemed to fill with a warmth not from any source she could see. It wasn't bright light, just the sense of being held, unseen hands gently resting over her shoulders. 29. The voice of comfort deepened, wrapping around her thoughts like a melody. Comfort. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, nor angels nor principalities, nor things present nor threatening, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate you from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus, our Lord. Romans 8:38-39, AMP. The words struck her like waves against the shore. Powerful, rhythmic, sure. She closed her eyes. For the first time in weeks, she wasn't fighting. Not even this, she whispered. Not even cancer can separate me from you. The tears that fell now were cleansing, each one an unspoken prayer, each one a piece of fear leaving her body. A flicker of strength time slipped by unnoticed. At some point she stood and went to the window. The night was deep and still, the street below empty. A single lamppost flickered, its golden light reflected in the puddles from yesterday's rain. She pressed her palm against the glass, breathing in the quiet. Comfort. You are not forsaken, she whispered. Then stay close tomorrow. No voice answered, but she didn't need one. the peace that lingered was enough. Preparation before bed, she packed a small tote for the morning, her insurance card, a notebook, and her grandmother's handkerchief. She hesitated, then added her Bible. It felt heavy in her hand, but sacred. 30. She paused beside her bed, whispering one last prayer. Lord, if the news is bad, hold me through it. If it's good, let me remember tonight. She turned off the lamp. The room sank into soft darkness, but this time it wasn't oppressive. The whispers of lying lips and brokenness faded into distant murmurs, powerless in the face of peace. And as she drifted towards sleep, Comfort whispered one last promise. Comfort. When you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. Proverbs 3:24, AMP. Her breathing slowed. Outside, the stars blinked faintly above her window. And somewhere unseen, heaven watched and waited for the morning. Morning's edge. The alarm sounded softly at 5:45 a.m. Yesican woke before it finished its first chime. For the first time in weeks, her chest didn't feel like it was caving in. The fear was still there, quiet, persistent, but it no longer ruled her. She sat up slowly, blanket pulled around her waist, and looked toward the window. The world was pale and still, faint streaks of dawn bled through thin clouds like veins of gold. Thank you, she whispered, for one more morning. Her voice was rough from the night's tears, yet steady. The room carried that fragile stillness that follows a long battle, the kind of quiet that isn't empty, but sacred. She reached for her Bible, the one she'd packed the night before, and rested it on her lap. Her fingers traced the cover as though it were skin. Something alive, something safe. The words of comfort echoed from the night before. 31. When you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. She had slept, truly slept, and that alone felt like a small miracle. Preparing for the unknown. She showered, dressed, and braided her hair with slow, deliberate motions. The mirror reflected someone fragile yet focused. Her heart beat in a rhythm that whispered, steady, steady, steady. In the kitchen, she made a cup of coffee. The first sip burned slightly, but the warmth grounded her. Brokenness lingered nearby like morning fog. Its voice, softer than usual, murmured, "You can still cancel, tell them you're not ready." She shook her head. "I have to go." Brokenness, what's the point of knowing? Bad news only confirms what you already fear. She set the mug down, exhaling through her nose. "I'm not doing fear today." A hush fell over the room. Then, Comfort answered, its tone low and sure. "Comfort, you will keep him in perfect and constant peace whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you." Isaiah 26:3, AMP. The verse rose within her like sunlight dispersing fog. She nodded faintly. "Yes, I'll keep my mind on you." The heaviness retreated, not gone, but diminished. On the road again. The sky lightened as she drove. Wisps of cloud hung low, tinted pink by the rising sun. Each street she passed carried a memory. Children walking to school. Shop owners opening their doors. Joggers in hoodies. Life moved as usual, though hers hovered on the edge of change. 32. She turned off the radio, letting the hum of the tires fill the silence. Her cross swayed gently from the rearview mirror, catching flashes of light. Lying lips. "You're pretending to be brave, but bravery can't stop what's coming." Her grip tightened on the steering wheel. "You're right," she whispered, "but faith can carry me through it." The whisper faltered. Then another voice rose, not loud but radiant, threaded with quiet power. "Comfort, the Lord will fight for you, while you only need to keep silent and remain calm." Exodus 14:14, AMP. She exhaled, long and steady. "Then I'll keep driving." The road curved toward the city. The hospital's glass window shimmered ahead, catching the first full rays of morning light. Inside the waiting room, the automatic doors slid open, releasing the sterile scent of disinfectant and coffee. Yesican walked to the reception desk, which was pretty hard for me to look at the results of a loud consequence. They worked consistently with the lower pain core of the cops. Everything looked the same, yet she was not. Her hands trembled slightly as she held her notebook. She opened it to a blank page and wrote one line across the top in careful, splendid handwriting. "This battle is not mine but God's." The act steadied her. Around her, people whispered, phones buzzed, machines beeped. But inside, a strange quiet formed, an interior sanctuary. Comfort. You are mine. The words filled her spirit like warm oil pouring into an empty vessel. 33. Comfort. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flame will not consume you. Isaiah 43:2 AMP. Her eyes closed. Then I'll walk. Moments of waiting, minutes stretched into nearly an hour. Her name had not been called yet. She stared at the clock, each tick marking another heartbeat of uncertainty. Her fingers traced circles on her notebook. The silence between prayers was filled with whispers from both sides of the unseen realm. Lying lips? Maybe he'll comfort you now so you won't complain later. You'll need comfort when the bad news hits. Comfort. Even though I walk through the sunless valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff to guide, they comfort me. Psalm 23:4 AMP. The two voices warred within her, yet one always carried peace. She closed her eyes again, choosing to dwell on that peace until her name was called. The gentle presence. A faint movement caught her attention. Across from her sat a woman, elderly, silver-haired, wearing a scarf over her shoulders. Her hands were folded neatly on her lap. When Yesican looked up, the woman smiled. It wasn't the casual, it was knowing, tender. Love is not bad. A set of sorrows is also bad. You're gonna be all right, the woman said softly. He's already there, waiting for you. Yes, Yesican blinked. I'm sorry, have we met? Not yet, the woman said with a wink. 34. Before Yesican can respond, a nurse called her name. She turned toward the sound, startled. And when she glanced back, the chair across from her was empty. Her breath hitched. The scarf. The woman gone. A tremor of holy awe rippled through her. Comfort. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by this, some have entertained angels without knowing it. Hebrews 13:2 AMP. She clutched her bag to her chest, whispering, Then you sent someone to remind me. Her hands steadied. She rose. Toward the room. The same nurse led her down the same hallway. Each step echoed with memory and meaning now. When they reached the exam door, Yesican paused. Her pulse raced, but she felt another rhythm beneath it. Stronger, steadier, divine. She whispered one last prayer under her breath. Even if the storm comes, let me remember who calms it. The nurse smiled politely, unaware of the holy trembling that filled the room. As the door swung open, a flicker of unseen light hovered just behind Yesican, soft, golden, protective. Comfort stood close. From the distance of eternity, another presence approached, the first glimmer of victory, radiant and sure, watching quietly from the threshold of time. As Yesican stepped into the white room again, the story's first circle closed. The unseen war had already begun, though she didn't yet know its name. And above her trembling heart, heaven whispered, 35 Comfort. You will not break. You are being made new. The second question. Chapter 2. The diagnosis. The cold room of the gown. The sound of the clock on the wall was too loud. Every second snapped through the silence like brittle wood. Yesican sat on the examination table, her paper gown rustling each time she exhaled. The smell of antiseptic clung to the air, sharp, clean, and merciless. The nurse had taken her vitals and left her alone. Now, she waited. The waiting was worse than the results. Her fingers twisted the corner of the paper beneath her. Her heart thudded unevenly in her chest. She tried to pray, but her thoughts scattered. Lord, whatever this is, please be with me. The whisper trembled in the air, unanswered. She looked toward the sink, a stainless steel basin that reflected her image in warped silver. Her reflection looked pale, fragile, almost translucent. This isn't real, she murmured. It's just another test. But deep down, she knew it was real. The doctor enters. The door opened quietly. Dr. Myers stepped in, his white coat pressed, his expression unreadable. His clipboard was filled with words she couldn't see. He didn't meet her eyes at first. He closed the door softly, cleared his throat, and said the words she'd been dreading. Yes, I can. The biopsy confirmed sarcarnosa. It's breast cancer. The room fell silent, not peaceful silence, but the kind that steals all air from the lungs. She blinked, her vision narrowing as if the edges of the world blurred. I'm sorry. Could you say that again? It's malignant, he said, his voice measured, rehearsed. Stage 2. We've caught it early enough for surgical removal and follow-up treatment, but we need to move quickly. He began to explain treatment options, but his words turned to static in her mind. She could see his lips moving, his hands gesturing, but none of it reached her. Her heart thundered in her chest, loud and uneven. The world tilted slightly. How long? She whispered. You have a strong prognosis, he said quickly. We'll begin scheduling surgery and post-operative care. You'll need support for the first few days. Do you have family nearby? She shook her head, staring at her knees. No, it's just me. He paused, uncomfortable. His pen tapped against the clipboard. Well, I'd recommend finding someone to help. A friend? A neighbor? You shouldn't go through treatment alone. Her eyes lifted to meet his. His face was kind but detached, the way professionals look at pain they cannot afford to feel. You'll need to rest. I'll have the nurse send the information packet. And then, he was gone. Just like that. The door closed with a soft click that sounded like a lock on her world. The collapse. She sat frozen, unable to move. The sterile white walls seemed to close in. The words stage 2 repeated in her head like a hammer. Cancer. The word didn't feel like it belonged to her. It was a foreign language, a sentence she'd never rehearsed. 38, lying lips, was the first to speak. Lying lips. There it is. The end of everything you were afraid to lose. Her breath hitched. Lying lips. Faith failed you. Prayer failed you. You told others God heals. What will you say now? She pressed her palms to her ears, whispering, Stop, please stop. Lying lips, you're all alone, and you know it. No one's coming to hold your hand. You'll drive home by yourself, cry by yourself, and suffer by yourself. Her body trembled as she slid off the exam table, her knees almost giving way. The floor felt unsteady beneath her. Her hand brushed against the cold metal sink as she caught herself. The chill seeped into her skin. Brokenness entered next, silent, heavy, suffocating. It didn't speak, but she felt it, the invisible pressure around her heart, the thick sadness pressing her down. Tears finally broke through, spilling freely. Her breath came in short, jagged gasps. God, why me? She sobbed. Why now? Her voice cracked in the empty room. The only answer was the low hum of fluorescent lights. The drive home. She didn't remember walking out of the building or driving through the parking lot. It was as though she'd been lifted out of her own body, watching from a distance as she moved through the motions, signing discharge papers, nodding mechanically at the nurse's polite instructions, gripping the steering wheel until her knuckles turned white. 39. The world outside the car window was blurred. Trees, buildings, people, all moving in a rhythm that no longer included her. She heard lying lips whispering still. Lying lips. You prayed for mercy, but heaven closed its doors. You asked for strength, and he handed you this. That's not true, she whispered weakly. Lying lips. Then where is he? She couldn't answer. The tears came again, silent this time. Her throat burned. She kept driving, though she had no clear destination. The traffic lights changed without meaning. The world kept moving, but she felt suspended, like she was trapped in glass, watching life from behind a wall of soundless grief. The lake. At some point, instinct led her to the lake. It had always been her refuge, the quiet place beyond the edge of town, where the water stretched wide and calm under the sky. She parked and stepped out, her feet crunching softly on the gravel path. The wind brushed against her cheeks, carrying the scent of earth and pine. The lake shimmered faintly in the pale afternoon sun. Ducks glided across the water, unaware of the collapse inside her. She walked to the same bench she'd visited years ago, the one under the weeping willow. Sitting there, she let her body go still. The world around her blurred again, tears distorting her vision. I can't do this, she whispered. Brokenness? Then don't. She let out a trembling laugh, bitter and hopeless. 40, I've trusted you all my life, God. Why does this feel like punishment? The breeze shifted. Leaves rustled. No answer came, only the ache of heaven's silence. The first tear of prayer. She sat there for hours, watching the ripples on the water. The sun sank lower, and the reflection of the clouds turned crimson. Eventually, her sobs slowed. Her breathing steadied. She wiped her cheeks and stared at the horizon. A verse surfaced in her memory, faint but insistent. Comfort. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Psalm 34, AMP. Her lips quivered. Then you're close, she whispered, because I'm broken. The wind lifted her hair, soft and warm. For the first time that day, she felt something that wasn't despair, the faint hum of peace. Fragile, but real. She closed her eyes and let the silence rest over her like a blanket. Comfort. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And through the rivers, they will not overwhelm you. Isaiah 43:2. AMP. The water rippled gently, as though stirred by an unseen hand. Yes, I can didn't move. She just breathed. Then, stay with me, she whispered. The wind blew softly against her face, and for a moment, she almost smiled. The lake at dusk, 41. The day bled slowly into twilight. Yes, I can hadn't moved from the bench. The world around her changed color, sky fading from gold to violet, but she sat motionless, as if the evening couldn't decide whether to comfort or condemn her. The willow's branches swayed in slow arcs over her head, brushing the water's surface with the gentleness of prayer. The lake mirrored the sky, a dark sheet of glass disturbed only by the occasional ripple of fish or drifting leaf. She felt the ache behind her eyes begin to pulse again. I can't believe this, she murmured. How can something so small inside me carry so much fear? Her words vanished into the open air. No echo, no answer. Then came the familiar chill, a tightening of her chest, a sinking in her stomach. Brokenness had returned. Brokenness tightens its hold. It sat beside her, unseen but heavy, the way grief takes a seat without asking. Brokenness, you've done enough pretending for one lifetime. Stop trying to be strong. Let the water take your thoughts. Let silence finish the prayer you can't speak. Her head drooped forward, the fatigue from crying pressed behind her eyes. I just wanted to live, she whispered, to do something meaningful. Brokenness, meaningful? Look around. The world doesn't stop for your pain. The cars still drive, the wind still moves. You'll fade, and no one will remember. She squeezed her hands together until her knuckles whitened. You're lying. Brokenness, am I? You've been fading for months, each day smaller, each dream quieter. You were tired before the sickness even spoke its name. Her body shook with quiet sobs. She wanted to stand, to fight back, but her limbs felt anchored by invisible chains. Lying lips slithered through the conversation, smooth and venomous. 42? Lying lips. Maybe this is God's way of finishing what life started. Maybe he's finally tired of holding you together. Stop, please. Lying lips. He healed others, not you. He spoke to prophets, kings, widows, but not to you. The words burned. She rose suddenly, pacing near the water's edge. The pebbles crunched under her shoes. You don't get to speak for him, she shouted toward the trees. The echo answered only with the sound of wind pushing through reeds. The echo of her soul. Her voice faltered, softer now. Then why is he so quiet? Lying lips. Because there's nothing left to say. That phrase sliced deeper than any diagnosis. She fell to her knees on the damp grass. Her hands dug into the earth as if she could hold on to something solid. God, are you still here? The lake remained still. Her breath trembled out in broken rhythm. Then a single thought, faint yet insistent, rose through the fog like the first star-piercing cloud. Comfort. Why are you in despair, O my soul? And why have you become restless and disturbed within me? Hope in God and wait expectantly for him, for I shall again praise him, the help of my countenance and my God. Psalm 42, 5 A.M.P. Her tears stopped mid-breath. The words didn't come from memory. They arrived, spoken within her spirit, not from her mind. 43. She looked around, half expecting someone to be standing near. No one. Only the soft shimmer of moonlight rippling over the water. Her voice shook. You're speaking again. Comfort. Yes. I was never gone. The wind and the word. A gentle wind rolled across the lake, carrying the scent of pine and rain. It brushed her face and lifted her hair. Comfort. For I, the Lord your God, hold your right hand. I am the one who says to you, do not fear, I will help you. Isaiah 41:13. A.M.M.C. Closed her eyes, tears spilling freely again, not of despair this time, but release. Then help me, Lord, she whispered. Help me breathe through this. The air around her seemed to pulse with quiet strength. Comfort. You are pressed on every side by troubles, but not crushed, perplexed, but not driven to despair, persecuted, but not forsaken, struck down, but not destroyed. 2 Corinthians 4:8-9. A.M.A.P. Each phrase unfurled inside her like a heartbeat finding rhythm again. Comfort. You are not destroyed. Yes, I can. You are still mine. She inhaled slowly, her lungs expanding as if for the first time all day. The stillness returns. The lake had gone almost dark now, reflecting a sky peppered with stars. Fireflies flickered along the edges of the reeds. She rose from the ground and walked closer to the water, her reflection trembling on its surface. You're really with me, she said softly. Even here. The breeze stilled, and for one quiet instant, everything, the water, the trees, her breathing, paused as though heaven held its breath. It wasn't dramatic. It was holy. A thin silver cloud passed over the moon, scattering faint light across the surface of the lake like 1,000 small candles. She smiled weakly through her tears. Then I won't give up. The edge of peace. When she finally sat back on the bench, her body felt emptied but lighter. The whispers of lying lips retreated into the distance, faint and harmless. Brokenness lingered, but without its former power, like a storm now out to sea. Comfort. The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts with unwavering confidence in him, and I am helped. Psalm 28:7. A.M.P. Yes, she breathed. I am helped. Her fingers brushed across the wooden bench, rough and real. The world felt tangible again. She leaned back, eyes lifted to the stars. If you're holding me, don't let go. Comfort, I never will. Nightfall. The last trace of daylight vanished. A cool hush settled over the water. She watched the moon climb higher until its reflection glowed across the lake like a path of light. Something within her shifted, a quiet resolve forming where panic had lived. The journey ahead still terrified her, but the fear and the first weight of light slandered. All words come for me is the same way I say it. I will live for myself and win. Lord, I don't know what tomorrow will bring. Make the world feel like me. What can I do to make me feel like me? And heaven answered with the rustle of the willow leaves and the peace that only the Comforter can bring. The stillness between heartbeats. Night had fully claimed the lake. The moon hung high now, bright but tender, like a watchful eye over the water. The surface shimmered faintly, the ripples catching bits of light that looked almost alive. Yes, I can sat with her elbows on her knees, chin resting on her clasped hands. Her cheeks were still damp from tears, but her breathing had slowed. The exhaustion was deep, not just in her body, but in her soul. I don't know how to do this, she whispered into the wind. I don't know how to be strong anymore. Her voice trembled, but the night didn't answer, at least, not yet. The reeds rustled faintly. An owl hooted in the distance. The world seemed to be waiting with her. The shadow returns. A subtle chill crept through the air. She shivered and wrapped her arms around herself. The peaceful warmth that had lingered earlier began to fade. From behind her, in the dimness near the trees, a whisper slithered through the dark. Lying lips, You think peace lasts? It never does. Morning will come, and the pain will still be there. She stiffened, jaw tightening. Lying lips. You'll wake up tomorrow with cancer still in your body. God might comfort your tears, but he won't erase your diagnosis. 46. She turned her head slightly, eyes darting toward the voice she couldn't see. Why are you still here? Lying lips. Because truth doesn't leave just because you pretend to have faith. Her body tensed. You're not truth. Lying lips, aren't I? You're alone. You're dying. You're afraid to tell anyone because you know they won't stay. The words pierced deep. Her shoulders shook. Stop it, she whispered. Lying lips. God might comfort you, but he won't heal you. Some lessons are meant to hurt. She covered her ears, whispering through clenched teeth. No. He said he would never leave me. A voice hissed, retreating but not gone. I need my heart to take ways to save the love long. Brokenness falters. When the silence returned, it wasn't quite the same. A faint sound filled it, not from the lake, but from inside her, the sound of her own heartbeat, steady and present. She focused on it, clinging to the rhythm as though each thud were a prayer. Then came the heavy presence again. Brokenness, hovering close. Brokenness. He may not have left you, but he hasn't changed your fate. You heard the doctor. There's no miracle waiting at sunrise. Her shoulders slumped. Maybe the miracle isn't healing, she said softly. Maybe it's surviving. Brokenness. You sound like someone who's given up. She closed her eyes, tears slipping silently down her face. Maybe I'm someone who's surrendering. That answer seemed to confuse the darkness. The pressure in the air loosened. 4-7. The breath of comfort. The faintest glow began to rise over the water. Not daylight, but light nonetheless. It shimmered just above the surface like mist touched by fire. Her breath caught. The voice of comfort came again, calm as the lake itself. Comfort. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Psalm 35, AMP. She inhaled deeply, the words pulling her upright as if invisible hands had lifted her chin. Joy? She whispered. After all this? Comfort. Yes, because I am with you even now. You are not forgotten in the dark. She looked down at her hands, trembling, scarred by her own grip. Then why do I still hurt so much? Comfort. Because healing begins in the ache. But morning will find you. The words wrapped around her like warmth after frost. Comfort. Arise. Arise from spiritual depression to a new life. Shine. Be radiant with the glory and brilliance of the Lord, for your light has come, and glory of the Lord has risen upon you. Isaiah 61, AMP. She closed her eyes, letting the verse wash over her. The tears that fell this time felt purer, not the sharp, salt kind of despair, but the cleansing release of surrender. I don't understand, she whispered, but I trust you. A stir in the air, the lake's surface shimmered brighter now. The reflection of the moon seemed to stretch toward her, forming a path of silver light. Somewhere beyond the reach of sight, a new presence stirred stronger, higher, radiant. 48. It did not speak yet, but its arrival shifted the balance. The shadows at the water's edge retreated. The voice of lying lips went silent. Yes, I can didn't see victory. Not yet, but her spirit did. The air itself seemed charged with something living. Comfort. You are more than a conqueror through him who loves you. Romans 8:37, AMP. Her body trembled with the force of that truth. More than a conqueror, she repeated softly. Even now, comfort, yes, even now. A quiet resolve. She sat back on the bench again, but her posture had changed. The slumped shoulders were gone. Her gaze was forward, fixed on the horizon. Tomorrow I'll go back, she said aloud. I'll face whatever comes, but not alone. Comfort. Never alone. Her heart swelled with a strange mix of sorrow and strength. The night still felt long, but it no longer felt endless. She reached for her notebook, which she had brought with her but forgotten until now. Her fingers trembled as she wrote, under the dim light of the moon, "Faith doesn't deny pain. It redefines it. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning." She stared at the words for a long moment, then whispered, "Morning will come." The whisper of victory. Far beyond the lake, somewhere unseen, Victory finally spoke. Not to her ears, but into the spiritual air itself. Victory. The night does not win. The dark does not define her. 49. The words rippled through the unseen realm, scattering lying lips like mist. "Yes, I can," shivered suddenly, but not from cold, from the weight of grace pressing gently against her soul. She stood and took one last look at the lake. The moonlight glowed on her skin, and though her tears still glistened, her eyes now reflected strength. "One step at a time," she whispered. "And if I fall, you'll catch me. Comfort, always." Leaving the lake. As she walked back to her car, the gravel crunched softly beneath her shoes. Behind her, the lake shimmered once more, brighter than before, almost as though the light itself bowed farewell. The faintest hint of dawn crept over the horizon, and though she didn't yet know it, victory followed her unseen, unrelenting, carrying morning on its wings. The morning after the first light of dawn crept slowly across the horizon, chasing away the heavy shadows of the night. Yes, I Can's car rolled down the empty road, the tires whispering over damp asphalt. The air outside was cool and clean, carrying the faint scent of rain and earth. Birds had begun to sing again, tentative notes that sounded like fragments of forgotten joy. Her eyes were swollen from crying, but her face carried something new, not peace exactly, but determination. The lake, with all its pain and revelation, receded in a rearview mirror. Ahead lay the long road home. She gripped the steering wheel tightly, her hands trembling less than the day before. "Thank you for not leaving me there," she whispered. "I don't know what happens next, but you saved." 50. The silence in the car didn't feel empty anymore. It felt inhabited. The still presence. For a while she drove in quiet. The early sun spread thin bands of gold over the hills, mist lifted from the fields like breath. Her mind replayed fragments from the night, Comfort's voice, the shimmer of moonlight, the way her heart had steadied even as her tears fell. She could still hear it faintly. "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning." Her chest tightened. "It's morning," she said softly. "So, where's the joy?" "Comfort. Joy isn't always laughter. Sometimes it's the strength to keep going." She smiled faintly through exhaustion. "Then I have it, a little." The whisper returned, gentle and grounding. "Comfort, but you, O Lord, are a shield for me, my glory, and the one who lifts my head." Song 3:3, AMP. The words settled in her like sunlight seeping into cold skin. "The one who lifts my head," she repeated, gripping the wheel tighter. "Then lift it today, Lord. Just enough to face what's next." Returning home. When she finally pulled into her driveway, the sky had turned bright and blue. Her apartment building looked unchanged. Same cracked sidewalk, same creaky steps, but she was not the same woman who had left it yesterday. Inside, the air felt still, almost fragile. She dropped her keys onto the table and stood in the doorway for a long time, taking in the quiet. The couch, the mug, the blanket, all reminders of her pain, looked smaller now, less intimidating. She walked over to the window and drew back the curtains. Light poured in golden, clean, unstoppable. Dust motes danced in the beams, swirling gently. I couldn't be as conscious as possible. I was bound by a child. Ultimately, I was cold and flushed. The room filled with warmth. Not heat, but presence. Comfort, peace I leave with you. My perfect peace I give to you. Not as the world gives, do I give to you. Do not let your heart be troubled, nor let it be afraid. John 14:27. AMA. Her body trembled. "I don't deserve this kind of love," she said through tears. "Comfort, that's what makes it grace." The answer was so tender it made her knees weak. She sank onto the couch, pressing her hands to her face. The stirring of victory. The air shifted again, a subtle vibration, a quiet force building strength in the unseen. A new voice joined the room. not gentle like comfort, but firm and resonant, filled with authority that didn't demand attention, only commanded it. Victory, you are not broken beyond repair. Yes, I can, gasped softly. The voice was clear, deep, resolute. Who are you? Victory, I am what rises after the storm. I am the sound of chains falling. I am the reminder that faith wins. Tears welled again. But I'm still afraid. Victory, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's obedience in spite of it. The words rooted deep in her chest. 52 Victory, my grace is sufficient for you. My loving kindness and mercy are more than enough, always available, regardless of the situation. For my power is being perfected and is completed and shows itself most effectively in your weakness. 2 Corinthians 12:9, AMP. She covered her mouth, a broken laugh escaping through her tears. Then I must be the perfect candidate. Comfort, exactly. The two voices, distinct yet harmonious, filled the room like melody and harmony, strength and softness interwoven. The light returns. The morning sunlight grew brighter, flooding every corner of the room. Yes, I can look toward her Bible on the table. Its pages were still open where she'd left them days ago, at Psalm 34. Her eyes caught verse 19 again. Many hardships and perplexing circumstances confront the righteous, but the Lord rescues him from them all. She touched the page, whispering, "From them all." Victory, that includes this one. Her eyes filled again. Then teach me how to live through it. Comfort. Start with breathing, then believing. She took a deep breath, slow and deliberate. The air filled her lungs like hope reborn. Writing it down, after a while she reached for her notebook again and wrote across a clean page, Diagnosis, cancer. Reality, God is still good. Fear speaks loud, but faith whispers longer. If morning came once, it can come again. 53. Her handwriting shook, but the words were steady. When she finished, she pressed her palm over the page and whispered, "Seal this, Lord. Let me remember it when fear comes back." The quiet renewal. The rest of the morning passed in stillness. She made tea instead of coffee. She opened a window and let the air move freely through her apartment. She even smiled faintly at the neighbor's cat walking along the porch railing. It wasn't that the pain had vanished, it simply had to share space with peace now. Her phone vibrated. A text from her sister. "Hey, thinking about you today. Hope your appointment went well. Call me when you can." She smiled weakly and typed, "Thanks, I'll call you soon. Love you." Then she set the phone down, leaned back on the couch, and whispered to the empty air that wasn't empty at all, "I'm still here. And you're still God." The peace that followed wasn't loud, it was steady, the kind that anchors a trembling heart. The whisper that closes the morning. As she drifted toward rest, comfort whispered one final word. Comfort. This isn't the end of your story. It's the chapter where my glory begins. And Victory added, strong and sure, "Victory, you will not die in despair. You will live to testify." She closed her eyes, tears rolling down softly as she mouthed, "Amen." The sunlight lay across her face like a blessing. 54. And heaven stood watch, the author, the comforter, and the coming victory, all writing her story together, one breath at a time. Afternoon quiet. The sunlight slanted through the blinds, painting long stripes across the living room floor. The hum of a distant lawnmower and the occasional bark of a dog were the only sounds that filled the air. Yes, I can, sat curled up on the couch, knees to her chest, the mug of tea now cool in her hands. The peaceful stillness that had carried her through the morning had faded, replaced by a creeping unease. She wasn't crying anymore. She was just thinking. And sometimes, that was worse. Her thoughts came like echoes, not gentle reminders but sharp stings. How will I pay for treatment? Who will drive me home after surgery? What if the pain never ends? Each question carried its own shadow. Lying lips lingered at the edge of her consciousness, patient and venomous. Lying lips, you're talking about tomorrow, like you'll even have one worth living. Her breath hitched. She looked toward the window, as if sunlight could drown out the voice. Lying lips, faith is good for Sunday morning songs, not for hospital beds. Not for women who cry alone. She set the mug down with shaking hands. I'm not alone. Lying lips. Then where is he now? Where's your miracle? Where's your healing? Her body went cold. The voice knew exactly where to strike. Stop. Lying lips. You can't silence what's true. You're not truth, she whispered fiercely. You're just loud. The air shimmered faintly, as though a storm cloud had been pierced by light. 55. The reappearance of comfort. A calm, low voice broke through the chaos, steady and soothing. Comfort? Do not get cowed to lies by agreeing with them. Yesican's shoulders loosened slightly. She wiped her face and whispered, Then what do I do instead? Comfort. You speak truth. Speak life. She frowned, confused. Life? How do you speak life when death feels closer? The air warmed, and her spirit stilled. Comfort. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it and indulge it will eat its fruit. Proverbs 18:21, AMP. She breathed in sharply, recognizing the verse. So, you mean my words matter even now? Comfort, especially now. Victory entered then, voice strong but gentle like thunder from far away. Victory, you don't speak what you see, you speak what you believe. But I don't feel strong enough to believe. Victory, then speak until your feelings obey your faith. The room grew brighter. A faint radiance filled the air. The same presence she had sensed the night before at the lake, stronger now, as if victory itself had stepped through her doorway. The battle for words. Her throat tightened. What do I even say? Victory. Start with this. I will not die but live and declare the works of the Lord. Victory. Again. Her voice steadied a little. I will not die but live and declare the works of the Lord. The third time, her tone shifted. It wasn't merely repetition anymore, it was authority. I will not die but live and declare the works of the Lord. The air itself seemed to pulse in agreement. Comfort, that's faith, child. Not denial, declaration. She felt the weight of that truth settle deep. For the first time since the diagnosis, she felt power within her instead of fear pressing against her. A flashback. But then the memory came sudden and sharp. The doctor's voice, the sterile room, the words, Stage 2 sarcoma. She saw his face again, calm, detached, and the cold echo of her own heartbeat. Tears welled in her eyes, but the report is still the same. Victory, faxed and stand, but faith must speak louder. Comfort. Jesus answered and said to the mountain, Be lifted up and thrown into the sea, and it will be done for those who believe. Mark 11:23, AMP. Victory, speak to it. Her brow furrowed. Speak to what? Victory. To the thing trying to bury your hope. Call it by name and tell it the truth. She closed her eyes, trembling but obedient. Cancer. Her voice cracked. You are not the end of me. 5758.